Hello again, this is Sam,
I'm Nateal.
and we are the hosts of the Underground Radio auditioning for the Pokemon auditions for Nationals and Worlds.
We would very much like to be commentators for these particular tournaments. Sam and I love Pokemon. We record a weekly podcast dedicated to Pokemon where we talk for about an hour every single week.
Indeed.
And today we are going to be looking at about a half-hour long TCG battle video and giving some commentary on what we see.
Yep, just a little background on this video. This is the last match of Swiss rounds between David Reichenberger and Tanner Menzel in the, I believe it was the second league challenge that our league, the Underground Trainers Alliance, hosted. And this was at Paradox in downtown Fargo. And this battle was recorded by Mitch Westrick, and it was posted on the North Dakota Pokemon Organized Play website. And we're using that with the much gracious permission of Mitch and of both battlers.
So we're very excited to get this one started. So let's see what the battlers bring to the table.
Indeed. And the two decks that are being used here today were the TDK by Tanner. It's a plasma deck, and it's basically Thundurus, Lugia, and Genesect. And then we also have used by David an Empoleon deck. And looks like David won the toss to go first. He's playing out a Ditto and a Piplup using a Level Ball now.
The Level Ball is a great choice early game. It gets you some low-level Pokemon, some first-tier Pokemon, really gets you set up if you're running an evolutionary deck especially.
And David is a member of Team Hovercats. He's wearing his Team Hovercats shirt here. And he's using it also to check through his deck to see what is up in his deck right now. Basically, checking out what's in his prizes and what he has to work with for the rest of the battle here.
That definitely gives him an edge on this first turn. It lets him know, what he's got to work with and what is hiding out in his prize cards, so he has the ability to really set up his strategy for the rest of the game here, turn one.
Indeed. And looks like he's pulling out a Jirachi EX. Now, Jirachi...
Love Jirachi EX.
Right? Its ability Stellar Guidance allows him to search for a supporter from his hand and from his deck and put it into his hand, and then shuffle it afterwards as long as he's revealed it. Oh, looks like he's not going to go with the Jirachi. He is instead going to go with a Piplup.
So he has revealed himself to be running some Jirachi EXs in this deck, in addition to his Ditto and his Piplups. Looks like he's got 2 Piplups out on the bench right now, yes?
Yep. And looks like for Tanner, he's leading with a Plasma Snorlax, which has the ability Block, basically prevents the Pokemon on David's side from switching out. And he's also got a Lugia EX with the Overflow ability, allows him to draw 1 extra prize for any of the Pokemon that he knocks out. And looks like David's passing for the turn.
Having that Lugia EX on the bench might be why we saw the Jirachi go back into the deck, because with Lugia that would be a 3 prize card draw should that particular Jirachi end up being defeated in battle. So that might have been the smart choice on that front, is to take a secondary Piplup instead of the Jirachi.
And for Tanner, looks like he's leading with a Frozen City. Now, Frozen City basically says any plasma Pokemon any non-plasma Pokemon that has an energy attached to it has to take 20 damage. And that's going to... Normally that would be a really bad thing for a lot of decks, so especially ones that do a lot of energy for their attacks.
If you're running like a Deluge Blastoise.
That would hurt in a horrible hurry. But with David's deck, the Empoleon only require 1 energy to use their attack, so it's not nearly as destructive as it was before.
Looks like we had a switch go out.
Yep, and an Ultra Ball to find a Thundurus, and...
An N.
Yep.
That's an N out on the table right now, which is why we've got both sets of hands going back into their decks. We'll be seeing new hands get drawn. Hopefully that will be good for... Well, both of our challengers would be ideal, but...
Yep, switched out the Snorlax for the Thundurus. I believe Tanner discarded an energy card in his Ultra Ball that he used to get it, so he can easily just attach another energy to the Thunderous and get it. We got a peek at David's hand here, and it looks like he drew into both a Empoleon and his Execute. Empoleon, for those of you who don't know, has an ability called Diving Draw, where you discard a card and you get to draw 2 cards in return. And being able to discard and then Propagation the Execute right back into your hand afterwards is going to give him a massive draw engine, should he get the Empoleon out.
We did see an energy get attached to that Thunderous, and then at the end of our turn there, we saw a double colorless go onto that Lugia down on the bench.
Yep, the Thunderous being able to take the energy back from the discard pile and put it right back into his Pokemon is tough.
That was an escape rope right there, which allowed both of our challengers to switch out their Pokemon. We saw the Snorlax go back in, and now we've got a Piplup out.
Yeah. Alright, one of the Piplup on David's side of the field just evolved into a Prinplup. Had looks like a basic water energy attached to it, and of course he does take 20 damage.
Yep, thanks to Frozen City.
Looks like everybody's getting their damage counters out right now. But, yeah, and the attack that Thunderous used also did 30 damage to the Ditto. The Ditto does not have a whole lot of HP left.
No, and that's probably a large part of the reason why the escape rope happened so early in this game, was that we needed to see Ditto get pulled back before we ended up with prize cards going.
Indeed. And, in this type of matchup, too, Tanner's going to want a large bench. He just played down another Lugia EX. And
there's is that another N?
Colress.
Oh, it's a Colress. It's hard to tell a little bit from the particular angle we're at. Colress is a fantastic card. That was a wonderful new supporter when it got introduced, and it sees a lot of play.
Yep. And, with a big bench that Tanner is going to have, that's also going to hurt him with Empoleon, because Empoleon has an attack called Attack Command, where for 1 water energy, he's able to do 10 damage times the number of Pokemon that are in play. So he could do a grand total of 120 damage if both benches are full, with 1 energy for its attack.
And that is a substantial amount of damage, even to an EX Pokemon.
Yes, it is. Alright, looks like we have an attach for the turn to the Lugia with the double colorless on it, and he's passing the turn to David.
And David's going to be evolving into his Empoleon, so that Pokemon is fully charged up and ready to go.
And we had a diving draw. Had 2 cards drawn by discarding the Execute. Looks like he still has a Blend energy in his hand.
I couldn't tell which particular type of Blend energy it was. I'm assuming, it's the water...
Water, metal, fighting, and lightning.
There you go.
And those are massively useful in this sort of deck that he runs.
So he's going to be taking some damage onto his Piplup there in order to get some energy going.
And we have an N.
An N. So, hopefully Tanner didn't have anything in his hand he wanted to keep around, because now they're both going back into their decks, and we'll see a full new set of hands again.
Yep. Yeah, the Empoleon deck that David runs, and I've battled this deck a couple of times before, it's a very flexible deck. You can run, essentially, with those blend energies in it, you can essentially run a wide variety of Pokemon in it, and you're able to tech your deck out to whatever you need it to be for the metagame that you're playing in.
Which is really helpful, especially now with so many different types of EX decks running around. What'd you see get drawn? I missed it.
He drew right into a Silver Mirror.
Oh my goodness.
And for those of you who don't know what that does, Silver Mirror does prevent all damage and effects of attacks done by Plasma Pokemon. And as soon as he attaches that, unless Tanner has a Tool Scrapper, he attaches it right to that Piplup, he's shielded from all damage and effects of attacks done by all of Tanner's Pokemon.
Now, would you have made the choice to put it down on that Piplup, or would you have put it down on the Empoleon that's sitting on the bench?
I would have put it on the Piplup.
Okay.
The Piplup right now is attacking with, I believe it's Fury Swipes, and that does, I think, 10 damage based on the number of heads.
Yes.
And it also allows David to shield himself from all effects of his opponent's attacks while he's out there. And, all David now has to do is just set up on the bench and wait for things to go down.
Well, if the Snorlax out there right now as well, I suppose that does make sense, because he is blocked into that Piplup until Snorlax does go away. So that was probably the smart move there. It looks like we've got a
Team Plasma Ball.
Awesome coming down on there.
All right. And there's the Genesect EX. We had looks like a Deoxys and a Genesect EX played down. Genesect EX having, of course, Red Signal, which is super, super delicious.
That does put Tanner at a full bench now.
It does put him at a full bench, and as long as he has a Plasma Energy in his hand, it allows him to keep using Red Signal to draw out whichever Pokemon David has on the bench right into the lead position.
Which is really going to make that Silver Mirror not quite as helpful as we had hoped initially.
Yeah, the only problem that he has right now is that unless he has a switch card in his hand, he has no way of getting that Snorlax out of the lead position as quickly. And we have the Blend Energy attached to the Ditto, and a Skyla played by David.
Skyla's another supporter that is absolutely fantastic, but I don't think it's quite as much play as Ends or Colress's anymore.
Skyla is nice to look for certain items. I know people used to run it a whole lot more before a lot of the newer cards, especially like Shauna, where you're able to just refresh your hand. And there comes the rare candy.
I was going to say that gives him an opportunity for either a rare candy or perhaps another escape rope to get rid of the Snorlax.
Yeah.
But the rare candy is a great way to go because he can pop that, hopefully another Empoleon right down onto his Piplup.
Yep. All
and that is exactly what's happening there. We've got Empoleon up on the Piplup, and that is going to really, really hurt Tanner.
Yep, and we've got, of course, he propagated the Execute right back into his hand, draw again, and he propagated again. And yeah, it's a nice ability because as long as Execute goes right back into your hand, the game state has no way of recognizing if there's just one propagation Execute. So you can keep using that ability as often as you would like.
And that gives him a chance to do some drawing and making sure that he's got the things in his hand that he needs.
Yep, and we've got an attack command, looks like for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 damage. That
is a lot of damage going on to that Snorlax. But Snorlax does have quite a bit of HP for a basic Pokemon.
130.
Now, hopefully we'll see the bench on...
Yep.
Well, hopefully we'll be seeing the... Up, there it goes.
There's the first use of Red Signal. And we got a switch. And Tanner will be bringing in Thundurus again.
That's a good choice because Thundurus will be doing super effective damage to the Empoleon.
Yep. Alright, and looks like a Max Potion got rid of all the damage off of that Snorlax.
Tanner is not going down easy. I mean, he's in a rough spot right now, but he is fighting with everything he's got, and he's doing a fantastic job.
Yep, and we had the attack used. He couldn't find any energy, and the Empoleon took another 60 damage.
That is a rough sell, but at least now with Snorlax out of the way, he does...
Wait a second, would it be 60? Because he does have the Deoxys on the bench, too, which its ability allows it to do all his Plasma Pokemon save Deoxys to do another 10 damage. So, probably did closer to 80 damage. Ouch. Alright, so we've got David using Ultra Ball, discarding, of course, the Execute again in a Water Energy for... looks like a Landorus EX. Landorus EX having an attack that allows him to do splash damage onto the bench, which is probably a good reason for taking it out, especially when it can super effectively hit the lightning-type Pokemon that he has.
It's a good choice to have, especially in a deck where you're running, the Empoleons who are going to be weak to your lightning Pokemon. So giving Landorus a chance to come out and shine will hopefully buy some time for this side of the challenge table.
And he attached a Float Stone to that Empoleon, which allows it to retreat for free. Doesn't have any retreat cost anymore. Now that he doesn't have the block Snorlax out, he can freely do that as he sees fit. And
it looks like Landorus went... Nope, he's got the Ditto down there, is what he's got over there. I'm not sure.
Yep.
We've got a little bit of discussion happening there.
Looks like he has to take it back. And...
there, Landorus has gone down.
Alright. And we've got a Colress.
Another Colress.
That's a nice one. He'll be able to Colress for 8.
That will be very, very good for him.
Yep. Yeah, that Colress being able to shuffle your hand and then draw cards equal to the number of benched Pokemon in play, it can either really help you or it could be kind of lackluster, but especially for the mid-game like this.
It's a wonderful mid-game support card, especially when we've got, a Landorus out there now, so he's looking for some different types of energy at this point, maybe another blend energy.
Definitely another blend energy. All right, so we saw a Max Potion and a Emolga.
There's a blend energy for him, so that will hopefully give him what he needs to get rolling again here.
Yep. And the Emolga is a nice choice for this deck, too, because he'll be able to search for any basic Pokemon, any Piplups, any Landorus EX, anything that he really needs. All right, and we've got a level ball.
Oh, he's pulling out a Piplup, and I'm not sure what else he'll pull. Nothing.
No, he was looking through the rest of his deck. He's probably double-checking just to make sure that he has a couple cards that he needs.
So he's not quite running a full bench yet.
Not yet. Oh, we've got Propagation and Diving Draw. 1, 2.
Propagation, Diving Draw. 1, 2. Will he go for a third?
I think that's exactly what David says in those battles, too.
Looks like he's only going to go for it twice. There's the blend energy going down on Landorus EX.
Yep. Yeah, Diving Draw allows him to do it once per turn per Empoleon, so he's able to get set up really quickly if he can get the attack rolling, and especially if he can get up to 3 Empoleon out there.
So I pulled Landorus out, he pulled Empoleon back with his Float Stone, and now we've got the Landorus facing our Thundurus, which is not quite as nice for Thundurus any longer.
Yep.
And we did see some splash damage go down onto that Lugia EX in the corner, the one that's getting loaded up with all the energy.
Yep. And yeah, that's the Pokemon of the day to attack too, because it's that overflow ability is not a nice thing to handle. And I'm thinking that he's kind of wishing that he was getting a little more residual damage with his Frozen City there, but for the most part, his Pokemon are pretty resilient towards an overflow off of Lugia, which can currently do 130 damage with its attack.
Well, he's not getting a whole lot of damage off the Frozen City because the Empoleon deck is running on so little energy right now. I mean, it doesn't require a lot to get running. So the Frozen City, while great for most other decks, just doesn't quite have the punch against an Empoleon deck.
Yep. Alright, so we had a couple Diving Draws again, and the Piplup was evolved into a Prinplup. And we're searching through. Tanner unfortunately had to pass again. He didn't have any energy in his discard pile.
He has a fairly intense hand right now. And it looks like Landorus has done some more splash damage to that particular Lugia.
Oh, there goes the Tool Scrapper.
Oh, Tanner was probably waiting on that one for quite some time. Yep. And there's an N.
Yep.
And that's great for Tanner and not so great for David.
Yeah,
because he's losing a fairly large hand.
Yeah, the nice thing about Diving Draw is he's going to be able to at least get another 4 cards back.
Yeah.
But after that, Colress was a massive item to be able to play there, and with the ability to draw so much from this deck, David's got a wide variety of cards that he can play from in any given circumstance.
There's a lot of energy in his new hand. There were 2 basic water energies that went into his hand.
And got a dowsing machine. So he could easily get that... he could easily get the Silver Mirror back if he wanted to. Alright, looks like we have an attachment of a Plasma Energy to the Lugia, so it is now fully charged and ready to attack.
Which means we'll probably be seeing it take its place on the battlefield fairly quickly.
Well, did Thunderous Noise again, or not Thunderous Noise, did its attack again, didn't find any energy in its basic, in his discard pile, did a little more damage to the Landorus EX, gonna wait to see if we can do some more damage to it before he finally attacks.
We have got a substantial amount of time in this match already with not a single prize card draw. Both of these players are playing very, very conservatively, very carefully, and very well.
Yep. And this league challenge in particular was a fun one to observe. And these two are really strong TCG players for our region here. Okay, yep. Another propagation for another diving draw. Man, that Empoleon deck builds up a hand so fast.
It really does. And, you know, it's great, but when we're starting to get toward late game like this, you got to start being careful about how many times you're going to do it, because you don't want to run out of cards too fast.
It's true.
That would be a terrible way to lose a match.
Indeed. But David is a very strong player. He did go to Worlds in 2012, and he has played with this deck quite frequently. He definitely knows what he's doing with
absolutely.
And Tanner's Plasma deck is nothing to sneeze at either.
There's an Emolga going down on the bench.
I was waiting for that Emolga to come out.
So now we've got a full bench on both sides, which puts Empoleon in a fantastic position.
Yep. Yeah, 120 damage is not going to be nice to any of those Pokemon.
I don't think do any of them resist the water damage? I don't believe so.
Nope, none of them resist it.
So they're all going to be taking the full 120.
Oh, and then he used his attack, knocked out the Thunderous.
There's the first 2 prize card draws.
And here comes Lugia.
Now this is where we're really going to see things heat up. We've got a fully charged Lugia EX, Plasma Energy and all, and it is ready to go.
And looks like he Skyled for... I do believe that is a Scramble Switch. Alright, so we've got the first use of a A-Spec card, Scramble Switch being one that allows him to switch his active with his benched and transfer any energy cards attached from the old active Pokemon to the new active Pokemon.
Which really is going to be fantastic. He's got another Lugia EX on the bench, so when this particular Lugia gets close to, and there it goes, he's going to switch right out into the other Lugia who has not taken any of the splash damage from Landorus.
Yep. Alright, and then we have a Max Potion, getting rid of all the damage off of the Lugia. Saving those Lugias is just been fantastic. He has 2 Deoxys out in front, so that Lugia is now going to be doing 140 damage, attaches a Lightning Energy to the benched Lugia, and blows up the Landorus, taking his 2 prizes. And, of course, discarding an energy to use the attack. And took 3 prizes from that, too, because that Landorus EX was an EX Pokemon.
So now Tanner is up 1 prize card.
Yep.
And we are definitely starting to get into endgame here. It's time for these Pokemon to really show what they've got. Which is a little amusing considering we've got a Lugia up against an Emolga right now. But that will give David a chance to search for another basic Pokemon if he needs to.
It will. Alright, we definitely have some thinking going on here. The Emolga has an attack that is Call for Family, allows him to search for 2 basic Pokemon and attach them to his bench, and then shuffle his deck afterwards. It also has no retreat cost, so it essentially allows him to basically retreat for free as long as that Snorlax isn't out in the lead position.
Yep, and Snorlax is currently sitting on the bench, and probably will be sitting on the bench for a bit now that the Lugias have really started coming out to play.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see if he'll opt to use the Call for Family, or if he will utilize the free retreat cost and bring out one of the Empoleon that are on the bench.
Alright. Looks like he attached a tool to one of his Empoleon.
I didn't see which one went out there. The angle we've got isn't quite perfect for catching all the cards that go down.
Still a fantastic recording job by Mitch. Yep. Yeah, this is definitely a spot where we're going to be thinking a little. Oh,
there we go.
Got an N.
There's an N.
Yep. And the nice thing about it is that he hasn't used his diving draw yet, so he could easily, even though he'll only have, got a bit of a scrambling there, even though he'll only get 4 cards, he can easily just propagation diving draw his way back to 8. So It's going to be a little worse for Tanner because he has, as far as I know, yet no nice way to recover from a 3-card hand.
Not currently, but a 3-card hand, depending on the cards he draws, he might be okay for a couple of turns, and maybe we'll see some draw power come to him in those 3 turns.
Indeed. Yep, and there goes Propagation.
Propagation diving draw, 1, 2.
Alright, drew a water energy for sure. And
looks like a couple of tools that went up there.
Oh, and he was able to do it again because he has a 3rd Empoleon out there.
That is fantastic. So he has now gone from
a 4-card hand to a
10-card hand. That is a substantial increase in cards. I mean, even late game ends are really not hurting him at all.
Yep. And there goes the free retreat into Empoleon. And looks like we're going to attack command for 110. Tanner's turn.
Alright, let's see what Tanner can pull out here.
Alright, looks like a Colress machine. Allows him to search his deck for a Plasma Energy and attach it to one of his Plasma Pokemon.
That will allow him to, once again, fully charge up that Lugia EX, which he definitely needs at this point.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. And looks like he Junipered. Professor Juniper being the supporter that allows him to discard his whole hand and draw 7 more.
And with a hand that started at only 3, that was not a bad choice at that moment, so...
Yeah, he didn't do poorly by that end. Alright, attached to double colorless energy.
And it looks like he's got...
An escape rope? No, not an escape rope. Oh, it was a tool scrapper.
Oh, there you go. So he was getting rid of the tool that went down on that Empoleon.
Yep, and blew it up again with the Plasma Gale. Yikes.
Absolutely.
Now we've got 1 prize to 4.
David's going to have to play pretty hard to come back from this deficit. That's not a good place to be.
And he lost one of his potential diving draws.
He did. But now neither one of the Lugias has the Plasma Energy attached to them any longer.
I'm curious to know if he runs Shadow Triad in his deck. Shadow Triad being a supporter that allows him to search for a Plasma card and put it back into his hand from his discard pile. If he does have that, then he'll be able to easily find those Plasma Energy back again, or any other Plasma cards that he might have.
And David just took a look through Tanner's discard pile.
Yep. Alright.
And through his own as well.
Well, he does still have that dowsing machine. I don't believe he's played that yet.
I don't think so.
So we've got Ultra Ball, discarding the Execute, and a rare candy. Okay.
He's got the Empoleons. Well, that's probably all of the Empoleons he's running.
All the Empoleons that he's going to need at this particular moment anyway. Alright. Ultra Balled for looks like another Empoleon. Okay. And Propagation. And looks like we're going to be diving drawing again.
Okay. He can do it twice if he chooses.
Yep.
And he will.
He will. Oh, looks like there it is. There's the dowsing machine.
There it comes.
All right. So, got rid of his own...
So he drew the Empoleon to get rid of it for the dowsing machine and then pulled back... I can't tell if that's the Silver Mirror?
I'm thinking that's the Silver Mirror.
I would hope it's the Silver Mirror. That would be the choice to make.
Okay. There goes a Max Potion. Got rid of the water energy off of one of his Empoleon, and we have an N. Ouch. Yeah, the N will have players shuffle their hands back into their decks and draw cards equal to the number of prizes, so Tanner just got N'd down to 1 card for his hand, while David still has 4 and the ability to diving draw.
He has 1 diving draw left to him, so that's going to put David in a better hand position at least, but he's still on an extreme prize card deficit at this point.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if he can take down this Lugia or not this turn.
All right.
Because that will definitely even the score.
David definitely drew into a silver bangle, and there's the propagation for the diving draw again.
And there's the free retreat into the Empoleon, who will utilize his awesome attack. And there you go. There's the Lugia down, which puts us back into a 2-1 prize card scenario, which is substantially more manageable for David.
Oh, yeah. All right, then we have Snorlax.
And Snorlax has come back out to play. Snorlax is not going to be letting this particular Empoleon get away.
Okay. Well, got a lot of thinking going on here.
At this point in the game, there really has to be. I mean, these are two very, very intense TCG players. They both know their decks very well, but they need to make sure that they are not making any mistakes, because a single mistake at this point in the game can really cost you.
And, you know, I think we're getting awfully close to time here, too. Time called in a match, and then they only have a few turns to be able to finish this game up for a win. We have a Escape Rope played. He's sending out... Okay, a Genesect.
The Genesect EX went out, as well as the Emolga, who has the free retreat, so Empoleon will probably be coming back out immediately. Oh, nope, he is going to...
Okay.
It looked like he was passing the turn there for a second. I thought that was the hand motion that went on, but maybe he hasn't quite passed his turn yet.
I think time was just called.
That would make sense.
All right. So, what is David going to use?
He still has one diving draw left to him, I believe. I don't think he's utilized both of them this turn. Because when we were suspecting he was going to diving draw, he did the dowsing machine instead.
Okay. Yeah, this is tough.
This is a tough place to be in, especially now that time has been called and they're on a counter now, so...
Yep. I think David is currently turn 0, so we've got 1, 2, and 3 left. Okay. David's thinking an awful lot about this one.
He really is.
Unfortunately, especially with that Genesect and a lot of his other Pokemon, none of them are damaged enough or have the amount of damage that they'll need on them for him to be able to one-shot them with Attack Command. Attack Command can only do 80 damage at most. And looks like we have a Hypnotoxic Laser rolled to check for sleep, and the Genesect is both asleep and poisoned.
That'll buy him a little bit of time, but when we're at this point in the game, when he's only got a few turns left...
Alright. Okay. There's his first propagation for diving draw for this turn. There's the second. And we've got that loaded in there. Got another
looks like a level ball.
Yep.
So looks like he's gonna try to load up his bench a little more again.
Yep.
Give those Empoleons a bit more power.
And it allows him to search for a supporter too. Okay. Took the supporter, put it back into his hand. Wonder if we're going to see an attack. I don't think we'll...
It's really hard to tell, honestly. At this point. He's still doing an awful lot of thinking.
We know he used his dowsing machine. I think he's carefully weighing the benefits versus the consequences of switching in a Pokemon that'll be able to easily absorb a Plasma Gale, because even one Plasma Gale from one of those Lugias will one-shot his Emolga. It will definitely kill his Jirachi EX and his...
So he's switching back into the Empoleon.
Okay.
And he'll have to attack. I mean, there's no reason not to at this point, because he's down to Tanner having 1 prize card.
There is the attack command for 100.
And he has his Genesect. Tanner's Genesect has come out of sleep.
And Genesect... Oh, we're going to see a Plasma Ball again. Genesect does have a retreat cost of 1, so he could easily retreat that Genesect if he so desired.
His Lugia on the bench, however, is only sitting at that double colorless and single lightning. Yep. Looks like he pulled out...
Looks like another Snorlax.
Yep. There's a glare on that card.
Ooh, this is rough. Okay, so... He doesn't have a whole lot of cards in his hand to work with. Not like David, who has a substantial number of cards to work with.
I think he's got more cards in his hand now than he has remaining in his deck. There goes a Lightning Energy down, and we are going to be switching out into Snorlax.
Yep.
He's going to hold that particular Empoleon in for a minute.
And that is turn 1. So now we're on turn 2 with David.
So we've got... David's got 1 left, and then Tanner will have...
This is unless David can knock out an EX or Tanner can knock out one of David's Pokemon, we're going to result in a tie. So we've got this last part here to see what we can do with it.
David's really considering his options here, trying to figure out if he's got a way to take 2 prize cards.
It's really up to Tanner now to be able to draw a Tool Scrapper. Nope, didn't draw the Tool Scrapper. Resulted in a draw, and that is the end of the battle.
It's interesting when we have a game that ends in a tie, especially.
Yep. And that is the new standard that was done with these card battles now, is that these battles will often result in a tie. It came down to whether or not Tanner could draw into one of his Tool Scrappers. Unfortunately, that Silver Mirror did block him out. Neither David nor Tanner could do enough damage to get that 1 or 2 last prizes to be able to get it. But... Oh, that was a good match, though.
It was a very good match. Both of those were very, very strong decks played by very intelligent and competent players. It was wonderful to watch.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, both decks performed beautifully, too. I mean, Tanner's deck, he has been working on that Plasma deck for quite a while now. He still has that deck, I believe, and he still likes to use it for competition. And David is just almost... to the point of being infamous for that Empoleon deck, just because it's so versatile, it's so able to get around other players, and especially with a Plasma deck, which requires a lot of benched cards there to work, he's got a lot of damage potential being done with attack command.
Yeah, he definitely does. So it was a very smart choice. The Empoleon decks are fantastic. I really love how versatile it is, and David really plays it very well. He set up very, very quickly.
Yes.
In that particular match. Tanner didn't set up quite as quickly, but once he got both those Lugias up and running, it was rough for David.
Yep, as long as he got the Lugia up and then especially had the 2 Deoxys EX on his bench, he got the ability to one-hit KO every single one of his Empoleon and to be able to draw 2 prize cards from it.
Yep.
So it was... really that one N right there at the end that knocked him down to 1 card that was the major turning point there. If he had no good way to recover from that one.
He really didn't.
While David just ignored the possibility of N completely. So yeah, that was a great match. Thanks for watching the video here.
And thank you again to both Tanner and David for letting us use the video, as well as to Mitch for recording it for us.
Oh yes, and if you want to see any more like that, you can also go to the North Dakota Pokemon Organized Play website at ND Pop on YouTube.